Okay, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. If you're here, I'm Senabella, and you are here at the coffee break, and it's really great to see you. And I am excited. And here we go. It is time to get going this morning. And as we do, I want to thank you again for coming in. If you're here with me, then I'm happier than ever to see you, to know you, and to share this time with you. I'm excited today because we have the phenomenal maestro of maestros. He's Chicago's most phenomenal maestro, if I have to put my bid in for him. His name is Robert Irving III. And those of us who know and love him affectionately call him Maestro, or we call him Babe. And so how are you today? What's going on with you? Isn't that orchestrated piece just amazing? Amazing, amazing. It really, really is. And I know that you're excited and you're here. And so you also want to know more about Robert Irving III. He's going to be talking about his journey, his path with Miles Davis, and the 100-year birthday that he would have this year, that he'll have this year, and what he's doing in collaboration with that, and his journey with Miles. And just give me a few minutes as we get things together, as things seem to be moving slow with this internet. And I hope that all of you all are able to see and hear me. And if you can, give me a comment and let me know. You know I need to hear you talk back to me. So go ahead, and while you're here, go ahead and subscribe and like and share and follow, and let me know where you're from and what you're doing and how you're doing. All right. So let me see what I've got here in my comments. You know, we are having some kind of thing going on, and I'm going to just try to say that it is an internet problem. We've been having weird weather all over the world, and in Chicago, it's decided to snow almost every day. And if you're here, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, and you're somewhere and you've been bombarded by snow, you definitely know what I'm talking about. But in the meantime, and in between time, we're going to keep going, and we can see what we can get popping over here in the studio. I know that Bobby is here in the studio and waiting to come in. And while I wanted to do more in this here moment before he come in this segment, I'm just going to go ahead and put him on the screen so we can start talking and chatting. But before I do, let me see if I can buy myself just a little more time. Bear with me, stay with me as I position myself to get our show going. You see that? In and out, in and out. Okay. All right. Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning, Senabella.
How are you? Okay, you know you're gonna put that camera down so we get a lot of ceiling and a little less of you.
Can you, is my sound?
Yeah, right now I see your name over your face, so you need to, yeah. There you go. Here we are.
There we go. There we go.
That's my guy. How are you?
I'm good. It's early, but it's late in Europe.
He's late. It's late in Europe, but it's early in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
You've been a whirlwind ride preparing for this here 100 Years of Miles tour and all of the birthday celebrations and things that's happening all over the world. What's it like for you today, just thinking about that? Wait a minute, dude. Let's get that going.
Well, there we go. It's a coffee break, right?
First of all, let me say I miss you. And it's really a pleasure to see you here. And um, man, you know, I didn't know if I could get you. You know, every time I've asked you to come do my show, you said, "Well, Senabella, you know, everybody's trying to get me to get." So I'm like, I know, but you got to do this.
It
So
was it was last minute, and I just got back from California. I was there for 10 days for rehearsals, and we kicked off the season of the 100th birthday year of Miles Davis with a concert at Cal State University in Long Beach, and it was a pretty amazing. The energy on the stage, sort of the coming back together of actually three Chicago or four Chicago homeboys, we could say.
really,
Daryl Jones, who started with Miles Davis,
okay.
and went on to play with Sting and Madonna, and now with the Rolling Stones for about the last 20 years. Miles
Did you say Madonna?
Madonna, yeah.
Oh, this isn't the Madonna that we know from.
But no, yeah, he was on the Blind Ambition tour with Madonna. Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
And so, and then John Paul Borelli, guitar player from South Shore, who played with Elvin Jones, who left the States and moved to Germany, and he was there for 20 years teaching in Berlin.
Wow.
And so he's back teaching in the States now, and so this is his second or third round with the Miles Davis Electric Band, of which I'm the music director of the band. So it's not a pure alumni band, but Daryl and I and Vince were part of the original lineup, and so it was just a great reunion for us to be able to get back together, and not only to do that music, because we think of the band as not just a tribute band, but a legacy group that's sort of carrying forward, moving forward that music to wherever Miles would imagine it to have gone to.
Wow.
And that's what he positioned us to do, and because he never stood still, he kept moving forward. It was always momentum. Yeah, it was always momentum. There were so many lessons in my experience, and so this year we have probably so far about 30 dates globally. Quite a few in the United States, which is very cool. We did Long Beach. We play Miami the end of this month, the 25th, I believe it is, at the Montreux Jazz Festival, Miami. Then we do St. Louis. We go back to California to do the San Francisco Jazz Festival. St. Louis, we do a club date for 4 nights. I can give you the Miles Davis Electric Band.com website. Will have everything on there, and you can kind of follow us. Chicago's on the list as well.
When is that coming up in Chicago?
Well, we're working on some things, so I can't talk about it until it's
okay. Chicago, can't talk about it yet. Well, we do know that Chicago is having an iconic, legendary jazz festival this year with a lot of big names. So prayerfully, what you're saying in your schedule will be a part of that idiom.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I know probably, and those of us who know you, we know that you travel in some very unique, defined circles. And before we get into it too much, I just want to let you talk a little more as people are coming in, and we're still. I don't know if people are hearing the static, but I do. I just want you to go ahead and keep talking so people can enjoy getting to know you as I know you. But I will ask this question. As you talk about your contemporaries, you've also been doing some dynamic things before this. Like I think you went into somewhere, you're doing something with that group. Are any of those people a part of what's going on with you now? What was that you did? Was that Italy and the mountains? Or?
Well, yeah. So before Miles, I did 4 albums with Ramsey Lewis as a composer, arranger, which was an amazing experience as well. I was doing at that time theater with Val Gray Ward at the Coomba Theater Company. I was the music director for the show The Little Dreamer, Night in the Life of Bessie Smith, which ran for 6 months at the Ivanhoe Theater. And from that, I went out to LA, and I became an arranger for Sister Sledge of all groups. And they wanted to do a jazz tour, so I did arrangements for their jazz tour. And so when I did the rehearsals to actually do the tour, um, they had a little bit of a family little dispute with the drummer, who was married to one of them, and they invited me to be the music director. So I could add that to my resume that I was an MD for Sister Sledge. Yeah. For 2 weeks.
Well, all of it matters, right?
Yeah, right.
Because a lot of this industry is wash, rinse, repeat, even though the names and the faces of the people are different and the places that you may go and travel to are different. But,
absolutely.
But the experiences become more defined and unique. That's what's unique about it.
Yes, indeed. Because
even when you mentioned Daryl's name, I remember when that one time I had an opportunity to do one-on-one sets and work with us, Daryl Jones.
Yes.
Yeah. It was a phenomenal moment. All of the people that I would say that I've been blessed to sort of grow up in your camp are people that have been part of the Constitution of what I've become. And one of the things that I've learned from you is to wash, rinse, repeat. Is what I was most struck by, is your behavior, what you do, and how you progressively go into your day and the things that you do. Would you say that most musicians have the same kind of attitude?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm gonna try to work with headphones. If we could, because I want you and your audience to have the best experience.
Okay, good. That's not a problem. One of the things I always tell people, if you have your phone on, turn it off, because it can be a deterrent in the broadcast. So how's everybody? And Sherry Lynn is here, and she's saying, so glad you've got Bobby, you've got your great friend. Yeah, he is my great friend, and I'd like to claim him just for myself. But you know, Sherry, so many people love Bobby, and we do so because we've all been part of the makeup of we're either his students or contemporaries to some degree, and we've all have had this great opportunity to kind of know and understand what we can strive for in this community. So Miles Davis has been, in my opinion, based on my communication with you over the years, someone that has really ignited your career in a specific kind of way. What would you say when asked that question about Miles and yourself and Miles? Because I do know that you spent residential time with him as well back in the day.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you've given me a lot to unpack. You know, I'm working on my memoir that I hope to release this year. That's going to kind of delve into that. But I always like to refer to the question that Miles asked me. We were in Copenhagen, Denmark, which actually I just played in Denmark in October. I was there for a 2-week residency with Daryl Jones, and so it brought back to mind that we had a day off in Denmark with Miles, and he was sketching, painting, and I was working on an arrangement that he asked me to do for a tune by a British singer, Nick Kershaw. It was a tune called Wild Horses. And so there were a lot of assignments that Miles would give me that, you know, we'd end up never playing. That was one of them.
Really?
But, yeah. So, but the point of this story is that Miles momentarily turned to me and said, "Bobby, I've been meaning to ask you, why do you play like you got the Holy Ghost? You know, with that raspy voice. Why do you play like you got the Holy Ghost? Well, I don't know that he knew that my family had probably about 20 ministers. One of my cousins was later became a bishop of the entire United Holiness Church International. So for Miles to ask that question, and for me to know that Miles didn't really have a religious background per se.
Okay.
My question in my head was, what does he know about that? What does he really know about that? And so it became a rhetorical question that I never really answered. It sent me back to my childhood and experiences growing up and being taken to church by my mother, my grandmother, and how I got to jazz from the church, and that whole experience of the progressive music that was being done in church. It was jazz, and of course, gospel music, came from jazz and the blues. It was a secular expression of the blues that came from the spiritual expression of the slaves and of that
What was happening during our experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you get the Holy Ghost in jazz.
So
you get the Holy Ghost in jazz. I can attest to that. Not just on the stage, but the audience. Everybody gets it.
Absolutely. So as I thought about the question, Miles could see that I was sort of pondering and wrestling with the implications of that question. And so finally he said to me, he said, Bobby, he said, don't play a single note unless you mean it. And so what that spoke to me was that he demanded integrity and authenticity and showing up with no ego. Mm-hmm. He also said, after that, he said, the silence is the music. In other words, the space between the notes allow you to appreciate the input that went into creating that note and to reflect on it and the vibration of it and the feeling of it. That's why the horn players played long tones, sometimes for hours, just to develop that sound, that note. They're searching for that roundness, that fullness, that completeness.
Yes.
Of just one note. Because then if you can do that with one note, you can translate that to the rest of the notes.
That's a master class in itself. Mm-hmm. I watch a lot of Japanese documentaries, and one of the things the artists always speak of is the space between the art.
Yes.
So what you're speaking about is exactly that.
Yeah.
It's about that breath.
Absolutely. So if the sky was filled with stars, then there would be no appreciation of the night sky. So it's the darkness in between the stars that help us to appreciate the stars. So Miles's comment, it informed my work not only as a player, mm-hmm. where I began to listen internally and draw from what I heard and felt internally, not just as a frivolous expressionism or whim, but as an intentional sort of mining of the diamonds and the golds that exist musically already, and we're just interpreters and miners of what already is in existence. And so I started to approach everything differently. Consequently, a lot of my music began to come through dreams. I would say at least 50% of the compositions that I've released on recordings have come from dreams.
Yours come from dreams?
Yeah.
Ironically, I wake up singing songs. I told you, so I'll wake up and just start singing, and it'll be a complete song. And I'm like, okay, I'm not out the bed, my eyes aren't open. And as I land back on earth, here I am writing songs. So I can totally identify with that. So 50% of your compositions are dreamed of. You dream of them and then you write them.
Yeah. So the piece that you opened with was just an excerpt from Sketches of Brazil,
Mhm.
and I think it might be important. Historically, it's Black History Month, and for me, it that was part of a long sort of um, arc of development for myself,
Mhm.
and so I guess I could begin by going back to a time when Miles was at the Essex House. He and Cicely had already divorced, and he had a room at the Essex House. It was convenient. It was he could cook, he could paint, and he had about 25 canvases all over the place was just overrun with canvas, and he was an
Mm.
oil painter. So while one thing was drying, he would tweak another one, you know.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
so he had a piano there, and again he had me over to work on some arrangements and just talk through music. And so he said, Bobby, you have a tape recorder, and I said, yeah. He said, turn on the tape recorder, and I did, and he spoke the words. He said, when I die, and then he changed it. He said, if I die.
Mm.
He said, I want them to play the Rite of Spring, the introduction to the Rite of Spring, when they roll me down the aisle.
Did they do that when he died?
No, they unfortunately I conveyed it to his family, his daughter made the comment. Well, you know, old people say things.
Oh my gosh. So much for honoring our last words, right?
Yeah, but the fact is, Miles spoke of this because Igor Stravinsky, as a composer um, of that music, was very influenced by jazz, and so were a lot of other composers, and there was a love affair between those modern classical composers and jazz composers and musicians. And in fact, Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker took the old blues and the old blues influenced jazz, and they applied classical technique to the execution of that, and that's how we got bebop.
Mm.
So there has always been this sort of marriage between those genres of classical music and jazz, and Miles knew that. He studied at Juilliard, so of course he was very sensitive to that technique, and so he always incessantly spoke to me about Stravinsky and about Arnold Schoenberg, the Austrian composer, and I never got a chance to really study any of that music to any great extent at that time. But we were in the process, Miles was in the process of sort of transitioning from uh, the rhythm section based performance aesthetic to do more orchestral stuff again. So, and remember, Gil Evans was the arranger who had done Sketches of Brazil, or I'm sorry, Sketches of Spain in 1959, Porgy and Bess, and that music, which incidentally, a lot of what Gil did was influenced directly by Ahmad Jamal,
Mm.
because Ahmad Jamal
Why not?
was here in Chicago. See, this all happened here in Chicago.
What?
Uh,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so Ahmad Jamal had a club in Chicago. It was called Alhambra. We have a
Oh, I've heard of the club, but I didn't know that history.
Yeah. So Ahmad Jamal and his style, he was from Philly. His whole style was very different from anything else that was going on. It became what defined what they would call the third stream of cool jazz.
Mm.
It was based on Ahmad Jamal's concepts, by and large. Now nobody really credits him so much. But Miles, when Ahmad Jamal would perform in Chicago, Miles would be performing over at the Sutherland, and Sun Ra would be performing, and they would leave their gig and go and listen to Ahmad Jamal or go listen to Sun Ra. And so a lot of the influences came from that culture. Ahmad Jamal was the first one to influenced the Pershing room to get a good grand piano.
The
And
Pershing room. Oh my God.
so that's why a lot of those early Ahmad Jamal recordings were from the live from the Pershing room. So there was a lot. Louis Armstrong was here. That's where he met his wife here, and so on. So everybody was coming here to develop. There's this cultural development thing about the Midwest and Chicago in particular, that people would come here and then they'd go to New York and LA and make it big, but they started and they developed here.
Why do you think that's the case, though? Just what is that all about? That people come to Chicago, feed off of the essence of the spirit and the creativity and growth, and even people here, and then leave, go somewhere and make it big. And you think that the stamp is made here as they go there? What is that all about? It's like, is this the school for that?
Well, yeah, and so this is the Midwest. So if you think of the country as a body, and we have a root chakra, and we have a heart chakra, and we have a crown chakra.
Right.
Well, the root chakra for the country is the East Coast. The heart chakra is the Midwest, Chicago, and then the West Coast is, so it's more cerebral up here. Here, it's more heart-centered, more connected to the roots of everything.
Cerebral heart.
Yeah.
I love that.
And then New York and the East Coast is about groundedness and survival. So you got to work hard to survive.
Look, I just want to stop right here because we have to take a break. It's just going to be a minute, folks. We're going to come right back. We got to give some honor to the sponsor.
Everything we're made of contains light. From the sun that feeds our world to the energy that flows within us. With LifeWave X39, we've found a way to put that light to work. With X39, we achieve something remarkable in the field of wellness and science that others could not. By utilizing LifeWave's unique patented technology, X39 uses light to elevate GHK-Cu, a copper peptide known to support overall health and wellness. Unlike traditional light therapy, X39 uses the body's own infrared light to naturally increase vitality. By gently stimulating the skin with light, our non-invasive, non-transdermal X39 patches help you conquer your active lifestyle and pave a new way to vibrant health.
If you're here in the room still, then I'm going to bring back to stage Robert Irving III. I know that many of you have come in early and we're getting a great part of this conversation. I'm Senabella, your host, and let's get him back on point with us. Come on, Bobby.
Yeah.
We talk about that root chakra and everything in the whole Chicago discipline and moving forward. So I don't want to interrupt anymore. Please go ahead. I'm just as excited as everyone else as I continue to learn more.
Yeah. So going back to the experience with Miles at the Essex House, what happened after that is he asked Gil Evans to go back in the studio and let's do an album with strings and like with orchestra. They had never recorded with strings. There are probably many reasons for that. Budget, well, probably mainly budget and time, the time that it takes. But what I found in some of my research is that every time Miles was sober for any period of time, he gravitated toward the orchestral music. And when he started going back to that other way of life, he tended not to have the focus and concentration to do that music, but he had a love for it. And so Gil was kind of age. He was getting up there. And so Miles asked him to mentor me. And so I had the great fortune to be able to sit on Saturday afternoons for 2 hours for about 3 months with Gil Evans at Miles's place. Miles would prepare something to eat, and Gil would take me through his charts and scores. We'd talk about just technique, he would always tell Miles that I soloed, that say Bobby soloed like an arranger, because I, you know, like my solos were an arrangement. And so once we kind of went through that, we started to do transcriptions of pop songs for a ballad album. It was going to be a whole ballad album with strings. And so we did Through the Fire, Shaka Khan. We did What's Love Got to Do with It, and a bunch of other songs. So the only thing that survived were Human Nature and Time After Time, that went on the You're Under Arrest album that I produced.
Really?
And so, and without strings or horns, and it was because we ran out of time. There was just not time enough to produce that kind of project. And besides that, Miles decided to leave Columbia Records.
That's right. I remember hearing about that.
And he moved to Warner Brothers, and we could, you'll have to read my memoir to find out why he left.
Well, you know what? Whether you talk about it here or not, there is so much. You have so much context and content that is going to be provided when you release your memoir this year, as I'm releasing my book this year too.
Yeah, as you should.
Right. Thank you. Well, mine is closely associated to you and all my experiences as well. But content and context, that's what's important, right?
Absolutely.
And I kind of lost my frame of thought because I went off board for a minute. So I'm going to just let you take it back over, because I don't know where I was at. I think I'm a little laid in and excited as everyone.
Yeah. So the aftermath is that kind of life kind of moved on with Miles at Warner Brothers. I was no longer involved in production, and there were specific reasons for that. There was, and partially by choice. And so when I left the band in 1988 to do work with other artists, I produced Jerry Lynn Carrington's album, which did really well. I created the group ESP, which was a Miles alumni band, and we toured around the planet. And recorded an album in Japan with Bobby Broom and Daryl Jones and different saxophone players. Kirk Whalum actually played on the record with us.
Is that right?
Yeah. And so from that time, from the time that Miles died until my time of being offered to do the Sketches of Brazil commission, I had dreams of Miles at least 4 times a year for a period of 9 years.
Wow.
I chose to wear this shirt because it kind of ties into this particular story. This is
you gotta pull the camera down so it's shirt a little bit. Let's see. Nice shirt too, Bob. Nice.
So this is one of the few garments that sort of survived my time from the Miles time. I bought it while I was on tour with Miles.
Really? It looks fresh.
Yeah. And it was made in Paris. It was a Paris designer, I think, but I bought it in Stockholm. And I was one of the few people in the band who would sort of compete with Miles in terms of fashion. And so consequently, before Miles would select his clothing, he had a valet, and he had, like, in his room, he'd had maybe about 20 outfits. And his valet would help him choose and select what to wear that particular night. All the shoes.
They called it a valet then.
Right.
Come on.
So Mike Elam was his valet, and Mike was also a painter. So he would also go out and collect art for Miles. And that's another story that we should probably touch on, is the art piece.
Yeah, because you upon his passing, you were given things by him that are a part of what you're discussing: clothing, art.
Yeah.
These artifacts are just phenomenal to what it is your experience has been.
Yeah. So this dream would be a reoccurring scene whereby Miles would ask me, would send word from the road manager, Miles wants to see you in the dressing room. This is before a concert. And if I had went to buy something like this and I was wearing it for the first time, Miles wanted to see. And so
Mm.
when I get to the dressing room, and he'd look at me and he would say, "Huh," and he'd have me turn around and model, you know.
That's so cool.
And then if it was something really nice, like I think I wore this that for the first time with some white baggy pants and with a really flashy belt and everything. And Miles would say, "F you, Bobby." And, so, and then
Oh, that's love.
yeah, right.
I
And
love that.
and then that would inform his choices of what he was going to wear that night.
Wow.
And so when I'd get on stage, we'd all be on stage ready. And when he walked on stage, he would look at me like, "Yeah, I got you," you know,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
because he had all these designer clothes, and he would just pull out something that was fresh, and he would trump me. At least he thought he had trumped me.
Oh, I think that is so wonderful. Look, I think that that drive, that mentality had to be quite exciting for him to finally have someone that was around him that influenced him as well as you were being influenced.
Exactly.
Sure that that happened with the music too, didn't it?
Well, it did. I mean, there was always this. There was a sort of an entrainment, I call it, of energy. Like the entrainment is when a bunch of pendulums swing at different rates in the same room, and eventually they all start to conform to one rhythm, and they all start to go in the same pattern. And in fact, that's what I'm naming my project that I'm performing at the Cultural Center on February 20th. And it's a Miles Davis and John Coltrane tribute. Coltrane would have been 100 this year as well.
So it's a Miles Davis Coltrane tribute on February 20th here at the Cultural Center downtown.
Yes. So I chose to call it Miles Entrainment.
Oh, I love that. Now, make sure everyone, make sure you write it down because it's a free concert. Am I
It's
correct?
a free concert. I'm the headliner. I close it out at 8:15, but they're concerts all day. It's a Friday.
Okay.
And so you come down to the Cultural Center and just hang out all day. Make it a day. About 3 stages or maybe more. A lot of vendors. It's always a good time down there. It's sponsored by the Jazz Institute, of course.
That's outstanding.
Yeah. So back to this dream. So the dream in my dream, I would be in that dressing room with Miles, and we'd go through the same sort of thing, and we'd laugh, and then I would wake up from the dream. For 9 years, this happened.
Wow.
And so I've got to plug in this computer. I'm sorry. Give me just a moment.
You need a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everybody, you can see that there is not going to be an end. Yeah. Miles Entertainment. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Entrainment. Yes, Henri. Entrainment. So everybody's driving with you, picking up all of your little all of the messaging and what you're doing as you're tagging and talking about your upcoming event.
Cool.
Just one more time off the top so people know, how many bookings do you have for the Miles 100 years anniversary birthday already?
So about 30 dates. Most of us, late June, July is going to be Europe or out of the country. But the rest of it is in the country. There's Atlanta Jazz Festival, the 22nd. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head. Yeah. But there's Saratoga, New York. There's New York City. There's more of California. There's San Diego, a free concert at the Pier in April, I believe, or May. Yeah, so the whole schedule is will be on the MilesElectricBand.com website.
And are all these here venues, at the venues, is there a ticket price for some, or are they all free? What's happening?
It's both. That's both. So there's some that are going to be festivals, free festivals, and there's some that are concert halls that'll be paid, you know. So yeah, so it's varied. So
yes.
So in 2009, I was invited by the City of Chicago, the Department of Cultural Affairs, and the Jazz Institute to create whatever I wanted to create in terms of a project to present at Millennium Park as part of this. At that time, it was a Made in Chicago festival that happened on Thursdays. So I thought about it, and doing my research, I realized that 2009 was 50 years after Sketches of Spain had been recorded. And it was also the 50th anniversary of the death of Gaeta Villa-Lobos, the Brazilian composer.
Say the name again.
Gaeta Villa-Lobos.
Gaeta Villa-Lobos. Okay.
Yeah. So I decided, you know what? I said, I knew and understood the history of Sketches of Spain as being a highly innovative, highly successful orchestral piece that was pivotal and seminal for Miles in 1959 and for Gil Evans. And Columbia Records actually put pressure on Miles and on his producer, Tio Macero, to do a sequel to that album because it was so successful. And so they had planned to do Sketches of Brazil. And they went in and they recorded 2 songs, Quiet Nights and one other, Bossa Nova. Miles was very unhappy with the results. It didn't have the sensitivity and the nuance of Sketches of Spain. It was a little bit too austere and heavy on the arrangements, and it just didn't work for Miles, so he abandoned the project. However, Tio Macero was a staff producer for Columbia, so he was obligated to deliver a new Miles Davis album. So what he did was he pieced together those 2 selections with some quintet recordings, and he put out an album without Miles's permission or knowledge, and it was called Quiet Nights. Well, Miles was so angry that it created a rift in their relationship that lasted for probably 2 decades almost.
Wow.
And
quite a temperament.
Yeah. So the critics didn't like the album. Miles was not happy at all about it. So here I am, 2009, with that knowledge and with the mandate from Miles to do an orchestral album with strings. And I'm having these dreams, and I'm not realizing what the dreams are about, but I just know that the dreams end without a concert. They just end in the dressing room without us playing a concert.
Wow.
For 9 years. So here I am working on the album. I'm composing. I'm 3 months of transcription on just one piece. It was music that I had created spontaneously that I had to transcribe and orchestrate. And it was the opening piece that you played, a segment of that. So I'm getting close to the completion of this thing, but I had a piece that was based on the degradation of the rainforest, the Brazilian rainforest, and it was influenced by a painting by a great painter, Totonio. And I went to sleep, and I had a different kind of dream about Miles. Not about Miles, but I would say with Miles. It was a lucid dream whereby I was awake in the dream, and I knew that I was dreaming, sort of like the Matrix. You have your avatar that's having the experience. And I'm in a room in an apartment in East St. Louis, and Miles opens the door, and John Coltrane, and Thelonious Monk are standing there. And Miles says to them, Bobby's here to share with us some of these harmonies, new harmonies that he's working on. He said, from the future. So I walk back, and there are 2 other guys back there who I presume are a bass player and drummer, who didn't know or recognize in the dream. But the rest of them sat as I sat at the piano. It was an upright piano in the corner. And I sat and played these harmonies. And they sat back, and one of them had a cigarette, and they eyes closed, and it was like they were soaking in, just drinking in the sound of my harmonics. And then I woke up from the dream, and that was the harmony that informed that segment of the music where I needed this darker kind of color. And that appears in this in a tune in the Sketches of Brazil suite. So I finished the piece. Of course, the concert was a success. There were 12,500 people at Millennium Park that day. The weather was beautiful. Wallace Roney, who was mentored, the only trumpet player mentored by Miles, was featured trumpet player. Fareed Haq, the Pakistani/Chilean guitar master, played classical guitar. And actually the son of Gil Evans, Miles Evans, was featured on trumpet that day. And I had the concert master, my concert master was the violinist for the Lyric Opera. I had a few people from Chicago Symphony Orchestra, quite a few from the Grant Park Symphony, and my contractor was from the Illinois Philharmonic. And they were all juxtaposed with some of the top jazz horn players in the city, Norman Palm Jr., Leon Q, and on and on. Mm. And there are excerpts of the concert that are still online. If you look up Sketches of Brazil excerpts, you'll find like a 13-minute clip of excerpts. But anyhow, so I do the concert, and I'd say about a week after the review of the concert came out, Howard Wright praised the music, I had another dream back in the dressing room with Miles. And in that dream, we laughed and we joked, and then we went out of the dressing room with the whole band and played a concert. And not only did we play a concert, but we played an acoustic concert that was in the middle of a large atrium that looked like it went into infinity in both directions, and there was like a live stream that we jammed, and it streamed to the world, to the cosmos. Mm. And so what that dream told me, and I didn't have the dreams anymore. So what that dream informed me of was that I had fulfilled my obligation to Miles.
Wow, you didn't have any more dreams after that?
Yeah.
That's amazing. But we're going to stop really quick and pay homage to what's going on here at Female Solution. Everybody, thank you so much. Hold on. Let's come right back. We'll be back in a short minute or so. Bobby, hold on. We'll be right back. It's such a pleasure hearing everything from you. Here we go.
Leaders of nonprofits empowering worlds. Let's go.
But the vision that God gave me, I felt that it was time for me to step out and work on the vision that God gave me.
We need look no further. We have a unique voice. We have a unique talent pool.
What's up, guys? It's Osada, the host of the Gathering of the Griots podcast, part of the Female Solution. Want you to join us every Tuesday morning from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And guess what we do? We interview authors of the Soulful Chicago Book Fair. The books, the experiences, the lifestyles, all of it with fervor. So be there right on the Soulful Chicago Book Fair YouTube page or on the Female Solution Facebook page. We look forward to having you and all our literary essence. Peace.
Welcome to Masterforce with Mushim Suit. Join us each week on Thursdays at 7 a.m. Central, live on Facebook and YouTube on the Female Solution page. As we dive into powerful topics designed to assist you in mastering your life force, our conversations feature a diverse lineup of experts, all dedicated to your growth. Tune in weekly to discover new ways to elevate your spirit and raise your vibration. And remember, we are ascending.
Now, Bobby, you know I had to play that last one because that's so you.
I wanted to say, you know, I love your sponsors, well, you know,
These sisters are people with women who have shows here on the Female Solution.
Mm-hmm.
Such a wide variety of them. Dr. Naima Latifi, founder and executive producer of the Female Solution and the broadcast services, has very meticulously put together a collection of not only females now, but we also have men who are doing our shows. So
Awesome.
I just know that last piece, Wushim Suit, I said to myself, I forgot, I need to make sure people know that you not only, look, there are so many things that you do and their disciplines are so phenomenal and dynamic and they really affect human beings, just like your music and your experiences, but you're also a Reiki master.
Yes.
Right? And talk about that just a little bit before we go. Just give it a little pinch so we can get right back to it. Because we've only got a few short minutes left, so I don't want to close on.
Well, if you would allow me.
Yeah, sure.
So
whatever you want to do, let's go.
So that same night that Miles asked me to turn on the tape recorder, he then turned to me and said, "Bobby, you should try painting because painting is a music that you can see, and music is a painting that you can hear." And I thought about that, and I said, "Miles, that's very profound." I said, "Couldn't we also add to that cooking, culinary arts? It's music that you can taste, and so on." And so when you talk about Reiki and energy work that I do, it's all the same thing. It's color, it's sound, it's energy, it's movement. And so not only am I doing Reiki, but I've invested in the Rife machine technology, and it's based on the premise of the soprano singing the high note and she breaks the glass. You know this? You've seen that Memorex commercial. We remember that. And so the Rife machine technology is based on that same concept where you generate sound frequencies that then can affect pathogens, bacteria, and so on. And so it's become a sort of an important part of who I am and what I do. Yeah, that's I'm glad that you asked about that.
Well, let me just say this. The thing that I think that we all who know and follow and love, support and work with you, your community, I'm just speaking of the community of those of us who are in the disciplines that you are part of. We all kind of know and understand that we can come to you for many things. Now, getting to you might not be as easy. Because as close as we are as people, right? Mm-hmm. You and I, my life in music has spanned probably longer with you than I have with other people, but there's a conglomeration of it. But the truth is that Miles affected you in a specific kind of way. What of these things are similar to your experience with Miles? What was he like in that regard?
Well, you know, Miles was very young when he started. He was a teenager when he found himself at Juilliard and working with Charlie Parker, who he worshipped. And he wanted to go to Juilliard so that he could be there. And Dizzy Gillespie and how Dizzy told Miles, if you really want to be serious about the horn, you need to play the piano. Mm. And it was Miles's sitting at the piano, had me sit at the piano and play everything I knew. And then he came like a doctor who was diagnosing a deficiency and said, check this out, Bobby. And he played these intricate harmonies that were tension and release that opened up my head in terms of, it was like a light bulb turning on in terms of harmonic possibilities, which is the title of my memoir, Harmonic Possibilities. And so the lessons I keep unpacking and unpacking, it's never ending in all of my experiences and all of my, and so with the painting, it wasn't until he died, and so in about maybe almost 10 years later, I recognized that my son Jeremy was an art prodigy. He would draw superheroes, and then one day I looked at that and I said, Jeremy, I said, let's go outside and let's look at the shadow on the trees and how the shadow of the trees is short at noon, and how as the day progresses it gets longer, and all of a sudden his drawing started to show this light and shadow in the garments, the creases in the garments. And he got to a point where by the time he got ready for high school, he was able to get like a 75% scholarship at Chicago Academy for the Arts as a visual artist. And so it was around that time that I thought to myself, well, I could barely draw a stick figure, but if it's in my son, then it must be genetically in me somewhere. And so that gave me sort of the courage and the impetus to delve into the art. And you can maybe see a couple of my pieces behind me.
You don't have to do that. I'm gonna come off screen so people can take a look at some of the art behind.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's not a lot back there. There's the two pieces. The window painting, which is pretty, has a pretty remarkable story behind it, and this other one is actually called Spanish Key, which is a title of one song from the Bitches Brew album from Miles Davis. So,
so people ask you to come and to play and to have a show of a gallery of your art as well.
Yeah. So the last large exhibition I did, it ran at the Old Town School of Folk Music for about 2 months, and there was an opening performance. Yeah.
Wow. So this phenomenal life that you are living and not soon to be over is full of context and spirit and healing and learning, constant learning and growth, but probably more so now, spirit and reverence. Would you say?
Yeah. We're in a very interesting time historically with everything that's going on in the world. I'd like to think of it as the glass. You have a glass of water. It looks clear at the top, but at the bottom there's mud maybe. And the only way that you can, get the glass clear is when you put it under the faucet and then you run water into it, and it's going to get really cloudy at first, until that mud surfaces and goes out of the glass. And so we're in that muddy place right now, I think, as a culture, as a human race. But I think the glass is getting ready to clear up. For me, it's fortuitous that this is the year of Miles Davis' 100th birthday, Oscar Brown Jr.'s 100th birthday.
That's right.
As well as John Coltrane.
Wow, listen to that.
Yeah.
So we have to think about the contemporaries who were also a part of the whole idiom of this here creative transformation of music and art, and the 100 years of their lives as well. That's amazing. We have to get into that another time. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's this is a very exciting time historically. There was an instructor at Columbia College who asked his students a number of years ago, said, how many know, out of a group of 50, how many know the name Miles Davis? Well, 4 people raised their hands, only 4 out of 50. And I thought, when I heard that, I said, now I understand why one of the last wishes of Miles that he articulated to us was never to let my name die. And I thought at that time, how could that ever be? How could that ever happen? But here we are, where you have young people who've never heard the name Miles Davis, and some who will ask me, "Is he still alive?" You know, and I'm like, "Well, yeah, he is." And it's because we're carrying forth his legacy, and we're keeping that music and that spirit alive in what we do, and I'm honored to have been a part of that the continuity of this art form that we call jazz through such a connection as Miles Davis.
Well, Bobby, it's been more than my unique pleasure, as well as this audience that has so diligently come in and out and back and forth. And I don't know if everybody's having internet problems as we've had today, but we're also grateful for who you are and what you've done. And we look forward to seeing you on the 20th. I look forward to seeing you before then, and continuing to learn and grow and be a part of this here dynamic thing called jazz.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I appreciate all that you do and all that you are.
Thank you. I know, Bobby. Look, you're my guru. Okay, everybody, we're going to close out here. It's been a great time today with Robert Irving III. I'm Senabella, your host for Coffee Break, and we'll see you next Friday.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, Dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, ngiyabonga. Senegal, jareh. Kenya, asante. Israel, toda. Pakistan, shukriya. Afghanistan, tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.